I think first step is a need assessment. Finding out from the professionals what it is that they think they need, because I don't think we even know that within specific communities. I think we need to research their past experience, what has not worked and why they think it has not worked, identify the variables, postulate which of those may be modifiable, and if so, in what way could that be done? No, the key issue is trying to find what is going to make the difference for a victim of financial abuse, for a victim of sexual abuse. Knowing how to pick up the pieces, knowing what to do with the abuser, knowing how to ensure that the family unit or the friendship unit, whatever has been involved, is preserved to the best of everybody's ability. Because I think ultimately there are only a small percentage of abuses that merit, as I said earlier, criminalization, as opposed to trying to figure out how to help somebody. If somebody is desperate enough to want to take mom's money, that could be basic greed. I'm not sure there's ever going to be a solution to basic greed. We live in a materialistic society. But maybe one can help the person to understand more the implications of what they have done. There's very good evidence that elder abuse also contributes to premature mortality. That independent of everything else that goes on, that is the actual act of abuse, there is some cumulative effect on the victims, and victims of abuse are likely to die earlier than non-abuse victims when you control for all other factors. If we can demonstrate to policymakers that elder abuse is more prevalent than people commonly believe, then I think we are hopefully going to require that policymakers take a closer look at what it is that we want to do as far as elder abuse is concerned. We currently have within Canada, the current Conservative government recently introduced legislation that was designed to make elder abuse more of a criminal act than a social problem. And the legislation allows judges and allows juries to impose legal sanctions upon individuals across the broad spectrum of elder abuse, when elder abuse, for the most part, is a social problem and not a criminal problem. And if we're thinking social policy, we're thinking ways to prevent, ways to intervene once something has happened. My sense is that most families are not looking for punishment in a legal sense of their relatives and friends. They're looking for solutions, they're looking for remediation, they're looking for safety for their elderly relatives. And I think that research that we do hopefully will expand our knowledge sufficiently about the causes of elder abuse that we're less likely to have legislation that says this is solely a legal issue. It brings up issues of, do we have, for example, mandatory, obligatory reporting laws for elder abuse? That needs to be studied in more depth. In the United States, the vast majority of states have mandatory reporting laws. In Canada, the vast number of provinces do not have mandatory reporting laws. Personally, I am quite happy with the Canadian model of non-mandatory reporting because it allows for nuances in abuse to be dealt with. It allows for flexibility to occur. It ensures that if a doctor is involved, that a doctor has the flexibility to work with his or her patient, if the doctor is open to doing so, in a way that does not imply that if I ask and I identify that I'm obliged to flag this when the patient says to me, I don't want anybody to know that my son is taking my money, I'll accept that reality, and the patient gives me good reasons why she's prepared to accept that reality. To me, freedom of choice in those situations is very important, and we're going to have to look at those issues a little bit more closely. And I think that our research has not really gotten into that to any great extent, but those who are involved in the legal aspects of elder abuse are really moving ahead quite progressively, and I suspect are going to challenge society with some very interesting ideas. I think we're going to find that the prevalence of elder mistreatment in institutional settings is outrageously high. And that, I think, is where part of our focus is going to have to go. Again, that's going to have implications for social policy, implications for in-service education, implications for who it is that you hire, even when you're short-staffed, as all these institutions are. Do you compromise on the individuals that you employ? I have personally been involved, as I said, I was and am a caregiver. I've personally been involved in firing two individuals who were hired to help family members. It was distasteful to have to do it. It was, fortunately, we picked these things up early, and there is a certain satisfaction in picking it up and knowing that one has been vigilant. There is also a sense that while you're picking it up, you know that this could be you who is the abuser, because any caregiver can be stressed enough that they do something that's not within their nature and was not intended. And I have a tremendous amount of sympathy and compassion for other caregivers who extend themselves beyond the norm, beyond sometimes reason, beyond logic, and sometimes reach a breaking point and become emotionally abusive or handle somebody roughly today when their pattern is normally one of caring and compassion. So that I think we need to understand those individuals a little bit better, and in the area of social policy, need to figure out better ways to give caregivers respite. And I'm talking both family caregivers and professional caregivers. It's no different. There's burnout within both groups, and we need to recognize this. I think that in the last 3 years, both the federal level and the provincial level, the monies that have been injected into research, into elder abuse in general, have been very commendable, particularly here in Quebec. The challenge will be to maintain that funding, to maintain the level of commitment from ministers for seniors. Consistency, even with change of governments. That always worries people who get involved in activities that are helping activities.